right.
True.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Live Feature Rant, a Landmark and EverQuest Next talk show. We have VisGaming over on our left here. He is actually a regular on Theory Forge, among other things, and we'll be back to streaming here soon, hopefully. And then, of course, on screen right, Adam. He's the he's back.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I was just here last week. Hey,
Yeah,
look
you
at
were.
that. And back again. And
Yeah.
then I was here the week before that, and the week before that.
Wait, you missed one of those weeks.
But in principle, I'm here every week. I'm that other guy. I'm that other guy that feels the need to inflict his opinion of the world on you that bother to sit here and join us or watch this after the fact. So hi, welcome. This is guaranteed to be an hour and a half of that. I can promise you that.
Yeah, anything that has Rant on it, I'm definitely down to be a part of that.
For
So
sure.
I believe now I have been following Viz and watching Viz stream for God, it feels like at least a year now. For a while. I believe this is actually the first time you and I are actually interacting in real time. I haven't actually been to any events where you've been, luckily or unfortunately, I should say. And it's actually nice to get a chance to interact with you for a change, in face to face, so to speak.
Absolutely, man. Of course. It's hopefully we can make it to SOE Live next year because we had a lot of fun. Got to meet
believe
everybody.
me, I want to go. I want to go.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like I was missing out.
Yeah, not to rub it in your face, but you were totally missing out because it was so much fun.
I'm sure you were totally
But, of
missing
course,
out.
this is this is the great thing about Twitch and just about, especially just about the Landmark community, is that it's because of how small it is. I feel like we eventually all meet at some point, and as the game becomes more as it becomes more well produced, or when there's more content and as more people come in, we'll still have this I feel like all of us will have this tight knit, or like sort of like a just base of friends that we can all count on and already know. So it's nice to establish this now, and then of course going into EverQuest next, I think a lot of us probably will. So that'll be really cool too.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Very nice. So how are you doing, Nero? It's been at least a week since I've chatted with you. Although I know you've done about 175 different shows since now and last week's show. So how's it going?
It's been going awesome. Just been like a string of interviews with developers. Like we knocked down, I think, 3 last week. We just had Choice Chamber on today, which is an awesome. It is basically the game if you're looking at something that has Twitch integration as a part of gameplay. It's the best for it. That's what the game is designed around. It's so much fun. And we've got more stuff coming up. I don't really need to get into too much detail. Though the one kind of funny thing is I realize I'm only getting about, like, on a good night, 6-7 hours of sleep, just because I'm up late working until 1 to 2, and then I get back up at 8:30 if I've got a meeting at 9, and just get back to it. I forgot how fast the month goes by when you're working like this, but something that I'd been keeping up on weekly was all the games that we demo, and making sure that I have the spreadsheet with all the descriptions and all the extra keys and stuff. And I realized, holy crap, like I only got the first week of October, and we've just been in grind mode. Got some really awesome stuff. We've got a bundle going right now, and we're going to be hopefully launching a crowdfunding campaign pretty soon. So that's more on the non-Landmark Who's Gaming Now, the other half of my broadcasting.
Well, excellent. I look
You're
forward
a
to
content
hearing
king, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm working on
Exactly.
it. I just opened up a Patreon page, so I need to get a couple of videos before it's less janky and I feel it's actually presentable. But,
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You got a Patreon? Good. Then I won't feel bad if I mention mine every week.
Oh, if that's what you were waiting on, I would have set it up sooner.
It's a thing. It's been there
Yeah.
for a while. It's actually the only. Believe me, if it wasn't for the folks who were nice enough for a couple bucks in the pot for me every month, Cleo wouldn't have been eating, and it has made a huge difference. Even if it's not a huge pile of money, It is definitely, and it definitely makes you feel like at least what you're doing, like your audience appreciates it. You know what I mean. Like it definitely feels like it's a fair exchange. It's a very cool thing, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to start a Patreon just to support all the Patreons I support. But hey, one problem at a time.
Support my philanthropy.
Exactly. Well, cool. I look forward to hearing more about that. Don't worry, and then I'm gonna have a book to hawk. That's all I'm gonna say about that for right now. But I keep making innuendo that I've been writing something, and this thing will be available for purchase in the, hopefully before the end of the year, the very beginning of next. So
Nice. Very cool.
So you're
and
an
believe
author?
me, yeah, I mean I've been a writer on and off over the years for other things, but yeah, this is a culmination of a lifelong desire to be a storyteller combined with I've lived a very strange life. And I have at this point in my life where it's like, all right, you're not going to let me go get a job at McDonald's. And you're going to keep cock blocking me here. Apparently, I'm supposed to do something with this strange life I've lived. And it just kind of feels like, well, time's running out. You know what I mean? So that's how it developed. And it surprised me because it's not the topic or the subject matter or the manner in which I would have expressed a bunch of different ideas, but it's just kind of the thing that, it just happens. And sometimes, that's where, it comes from. So
I think a countess is threatening to go down there and give you a job. I'm not sure
for
what her comment is. She was saying, "Adam, don't make me come over there."
Oh,
And I wonder, it's like, what
I
is
have,
she like a hiring manager or something? Is she gonna?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, so you guys will believe me. You'll be hearing all about that in the coming month. So save your $5. It'll be worth it. I promise. At the very least. At the very least, to witness the train wreck that has been my life. At the very least, that should be entertaining. And at very best, who knows? Maybe it'll be slightly philosophical along the way. So.
Definitely need to do a dramatic reading of it.
Yes.
So
On the
for
live
those
stream.
for those who don't know, I have written well over 500 articles when I was a content maker for collection decks. So weaving a tale and telling stringing words together in a coherent manner is not something I'm new at. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely been a skill that's been honed over the years. So. Yeah, it'll be like I said, it'll be different. It'll probably make people blush, and it's not at all what I think most folks would expect from somebody, and you'll see. It'll be fun. But anyway, enough of all the self promotion.
Yeah, seriously. Let's get into this awesome stuff here.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's what's tough when they push back an update like this. Right? Is this would be such a better show if we could start off by me saying, "Oh my God, the multi-thread thing worked," or "WTF, the multi-thread." Like half the show is us. Oh, I'm so excited for what we'll find out about in the next 24 hours. Like that's sort of the tough part sometimes about when they push updates back. So, but yes, we got a whole bunch of stuff that's supposed to be dumped on us tomorrow in tomorrow's update.
Yep. I honestly, I don't mind it too much because it gives us more to talk about next week on the off week, because we're only gonna be able to talk about it to such extent when we actually get in and see what it does and see how everything looks. Then we'll really be able to talk about it. So the first thing, even before we get into the game, outside of the game, if you haven't tuned into any other Landmark talk show, then this is not this is news to you. Otherwise, it's not news to you because it's been pretty well published at this point. Dexella has moved up. She is now working with the brand marketing and PR teams. The brand team, the marketing team, the PR team, not brand marketing. And it's basically kind of going in a bit of a different. It was explained kind of as being an upgrade, so I guess promotion sort of thing. So that's really, really cool. And now we have Amneris, who has moved into the EverQuest Next and Landmark community position, and we got to see her on the show today. So, not really a break in the action other than that she's kind of new to the game, and still needs to learn all the tools, but she's definitely willing to build and learn everything. So, pretty awesome.
I always hate it when this happens, though. You know what I mean? Because Dexella really has been around and involved and engaging with the community for quite some time now, and now it's a little bit like, all right, all that hard work now gets reset back to zero, while new person figures everything out and gets introduced to everybody.
I don't think she's necessarily new to things. In fact, I believe she had actually been originally assigned to EverQuest Next and Landmark, and then Dexella kind of took over. So it's not like she doesn't know the people and isn't familiar with a lot of the stuff with it.
I mean the community.
Oh, well, that's up to us to
community side.
Go ahead and say what's up. I mean, I already have the brand recognition of being the dude who goes to SOE and yells at all their events. So, that works. In fact, every time I see the, I think she's the person that the brand managers report to, Candace Brenner. She always says hello and says thanks for showing up to the events and stuff. So, yeah, some people in the community are probably going to be well known. Some might still need to be established, but a lot of it's going to rub off from the other people, from Terry and Dave and Jeff and Rosie and the other people that are really directly interfacing with the community, for who in the community are the people to know about. Now, this is something that I actually talked about a little bit on Theory Forge. The Changing of the Guard was the last episode title, if I'm not mistaken, and that was really one of the big things. Is I saw it as Omidus, moved on. We now have somebody else. We have Adam Key doing the brand management, and what better time to, if there was any time to switch out a community manager, this would be the time. I don't know if Dexella was, hunting for a promotion, or if it was just offered to her, or how that went down. And I'm not going to make any assumptions, but this is how things turned out. And like I said, if there was a time to do it, I feel like this is it. Because this is now kind of the push to open beta. It's almost a we've been in closed beta for 32 weeks. We almost are in the kind of push to open beta for some things, and I guess for other things it's the push to not be in an alpha state still, which I guess is part of the push to open beta. And there's still some things, like they could go to open beta and still not have the salvaging system in, and it would kind of be stinky, but I'm sure people wouldn't mind it too terribly.
I think this also really marks just the fact that they're changing their marketing strategy from what we can observe. I mean, we've of course heard that that it might have happened, or it might happen, from when Omid left and with his public post. And we kind of thought about maybe we can anticipate this, and I think that with the removal of the insider program and with the changing.
Have they made that public, by the way?
I was just gonna say, this is the first I am hearing they've killed the insider program.
Yeah, so we should probably hold off on that until we get approval that it's something we should actually be talking about.
I haven't. Yeah, they didn't say. I mean, at this point, I guess.
Oopsie.
Yeah, we didn't say one way. They didn't say one way or the other, but it is technically something that we're under NDA about. So, just to, I guess the short,
not the way to keep an NDA.
The short version is basically Player Direct is going to be kind of eating the entire insider system. So it's not necessarily that it's going away. It's just going to
be evolving and changing.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't really talk about it too much because we don't even know about it that much. All we know is that something's happening. We have a date. I'm not going to say it in case we've already started violating NDAs. At least we'll have that it's like, no, don't kill us. But
better to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
Well,
it's a life lesson I have learned from the best of them.
That is true. Yeah, my mom used to say that a lot too. And that was
this is a really interesting thing that we even I want to talk about now, if it's cool. Like, do we have any actual? I have never made a formal agreement about not saying anything with the insider program.
If you signed an NDA, they would have made clear to you are signing an NDA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that, but at the same time, I guess
we joined the insider program a while ago. It's been some time. I could understand maybe forgetting something. That's why I'm wondering myself. I
never signed anything. Omid actually asked me he just asked me if I wanted to join, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, all right, 2 weeks and 2 weeks and you'll be in. So that's pretty much all that ever happened.
Mythforger says Brass actually mentioned that in a comment in the EQ Hammers article, so I guess it is okay to talk about.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay.
Dude, trust me, I don't think that we would. I don't think that we would actually be like given that unless we were all really connected through contract. Like they wouldn't tell us like, oh, this is a major change we're making to our system and expect us not to talk about it. In fact, I think that they look to us. The reason that they want us to get information is because they want us to talk about it, right? So
yeah. But at the same time, the kind of insiders forum is cut off from the rest of it, so there's some amount where the population is segmented from the information that we get. But yeah, I guess if it's already been detailed, it's at the end of the month here. We are not going to have the insider program running the way it was. It's the live streams are going to just be one of the many ways you can participate in Player Direct. We don't know what the new and improved Player Direct is going to be and how it's going to work. But what I do know is I can't really guarantee the items for next month, so Original Pie Wing, if you're in here, sorry, we'll have to pick something else unless they continue the exclusive items monthly system and just do it a different way.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is if that's going to stick around, because that was kind of a neat... I know there were some complainers about it, but I thought it was great that they were doing all these extra items with the streamers.
There were more than some. But yeah, I definitely like that.
That's true.
And I guess the whole point of what I was trying to say is not necessarily highlight that, but just the fact that all these things are happening in a chain of events that are starting to to me send off signals like there is something changing. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what their plan is, but I definitely am noticing and observing change in the way that they're marketing the game, and. Even as how open I felt like they were in the beginning, I feel like that's been maybe like in my personal observation, it's been like kind of like a roller coaster where they really really want a lot of information from us, then it kind of like they get quiet for a little bit and then the same. And so I'm excited. That's for sure. I'm excited to see what's going to change, and I'm also nervous. To be fair. So
Yeah. Well. I agree, things change. But I still don't see them kind of at the core of it, like who's interfacing, how they're interfacing. Maybe that's, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. I was going to tie one thing into another. But, yeah, I don't know if it's something to be worried about, though. Like, it's not like they're suddenly becoming a different batch of people overnight. It's just, it sounds like their marketing division is getting shuffled around a little bit, and that happens.
I feel like
and just to you had made the comment of shifting their focus, shifting their marketing campaign. Well, they have to, because they're not. The early part of this worked because they were putting the diehard beta alpha tester type people in their crosshairs very much. And now that we're at this point in the game where, we're going to be seeing the push to open beta, probably by beginning of next year, you need to shift who you're talking to about that. We're already in. We already know what's going on. Whether or not we're going to tap out for a month and then come back or whatever the story is, we already know about it. We're already invested. And so it makes sense they would have to shift things around a little bit.
Yeah.
For me, the reason that it's I guess I said I was nervous is I'm one of the kind of person who likes to all in on things, and it's burned me a lot of times in my life, and it hasn't. And and other times it's really great. But in this particular case, I was doing really well with my old position as a tutor for League of Legends, and I kind of like was looking for an out though. Because monetarily I was fine, but I was losing the drive that made me love streaming, and it was becoming a job, and I'd rather actually be a bartender, like go do my old professions, and make more money. So I was like, all right, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to dive into something new, and that was Landmark, or was going to be any of the MMOs that were coming out at the time, but it turned out to be Landmark because of their presentation and the potential that I saw in it. Right, so diving full into it at the time, going full force. giving all of my resources to them. In the beginning, it felt really like I felt like I could do that even more because they invited me to this insider program, which at the time was like 15 people, maybe less, and there were way more people actually watching Landmark. Whereas now it's become like a very, very like they started kind of as somebody who's established on Twitch and like had looks at it for more than just like a passion. I look at it for my lifestyle. It kind of like scared me for a second, like, oh, maybe this wasn't something that I should all in on. I should have maybe like tried to balance this with other things. And so I want to so badly give everything that I have to this game because I'm so passionate about it and I love the potential that it has. But I keep like getting scared, like on and off about it. Like, can I afford to do it, or do I have to, start to branch out into different options? That's, I guess, why I'm nervous personally.
I don't look at it as a streamer, as someone who identifies with, trying to eke out a living, doing that. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, if you went all in on Landmark expecting that to sustain, yeah, okay, I can see that being an issue.
It's hard because I streamed before Landmark, whereas a lot of live streamers that play Landmark, they didn't, and most of them really like Landmark birthed a lot of live streamers, but it's kind of like they're still in their infancy of the way that they understand the website because they've never experienced the majority of what the community is. It's kind of like you're being sheltered in your own little world. And it's not that that's a bad thing. Like I love Landmark community on Twitch and I love being a part of it and I love what we're doing here. But it really is so different than everything else. Like there are a lot of people on Twitch that make a living doing this. And there are a lot of people who recognize look up to and appreciate those people. Whereas in the Landmark community, that's actually something that I don't feel. I feel like people, like I get a lot of like, even on the forums, like I get harassed about it. Like the fact that I am actually trying to make a living with live streaming and that I should just be doing it, just to entertain. And so it is, I do appreciate both angles, and I think that there's a lot to be said for both of them, for both sides of the spectrum of like, taking advantage of something for money versus doing it because you're passionate about it and not caring about the outcome. But there needs to be a middle ground, right, where you can be passionate about what you do and still be able to make money on it. And that's, I guess,
I agree.
Yeah, that's where my perspective was. Yeah,
I just wanted to reemphasize that point. As a creative person, as someone who has put out a Patreon. Yeah. And to ask my viewers, hey, if you like what I'm doing and you want to help me continue, please throw something in the pot. It would be really appreciated. There have been people who have had a real issue with letting, with you asking to donate to, this happened when I was doing Collection DX and we started doing things to try and generate revenue to make it worth our time. And there was always people who are like, who do you think you are at trying to ask for money for this? There's always some asshole that wants to tell you that your stuff isn't worth paying for, but they want you to continue to do it so they can consume it. Like, it's a weird, fucked up thing. It's a real strange thing. And you know what? Those people, if you're going to be put off by the notion that, 3 months from now, I put out a novel and I say, hey, I would like $5 or $10 for you to hear that story. Whatever the case may, I may end up deciding, if you're going to tell me who the fuck do you think I am? I think I'm the guy who lived the life that merited telling a couple stories. I'm the guy who sat down and put those out. You know what I mean? Like, there's always some asshole who's happy to take what you put out there for free. But God forbid there's an exchange of value. If somebody gets value out of something that you do, be it the time and the personality or the companionship that you streaming your gameplay sessions to an audience, is worth something, and to do it every day on a regular schedule and be there reliably, that's a time investment that I think is worth being reimbursed for, and obviously that scales depending on how, the personality of the streamer and, and other factors. But at the end of the day, those people who will say to all of us, screw you for trying to make a buck. Screw you, and please go somewhere else. By all means,
Well, I
don't
mean,
engage.
there's
Don't
always
get
the
involved.
folks that want to, download Metallica on the old Napster client, but not only is that available anymore, but it's one of those things where people it's this entitlement that you get some amount of content for free, therefore you expect everything to be free. And I would also say the folks who don't think that Twitch is something that people should be able to use to monetize, and the internet isn't a place to monetize, they're basically Luddites who don't understand, the direction that communication is going.
Yeah, or just in order for Giovanni to have a roof over his head and afford the insane bandwidth that it takes to do a live stream, he needs money to do that. And that money doesn't cut, you know what I mean? Like if he goes and gets, goes to his day job or goes and tends bar 8 hours a day, that's 8 hours a day. He's not, you know what I mean? Like it's a catch 22. So,
And what I guess
yeah,
the thing that I was noticing is that it's really a lot of outside of Landmark, and outside of like this very niche community, it's never an issue. I've never seen it be an issue anywhere else on Twitch, because in fact, like a lot of people embrace that about Twitch. Like they look up to it. They say, "Wow, it's awesome that people are now able to make a living playing video games." Like what? Right. But in this particular community, I've run into a lot of resistance, which has really just hurt me and made me sad. Not like detrimental, but just it makes me sad, because I want to I love this community, and I want to support them, and I want them to support me, either through just like positive reinforcement, or if they want to donate, that's optional.
Yeah, over the past year here, I've been thinking about it various different times. Well, Landmark really isn't, it's taken a long time to get where it needs to get to. Maybe I should just throw in the towel and start riding the hype train of, all sorts of new games, and be one of those dicks that ruins horror games by not being a jump scare and be like, oh, yeah, that just jumped out at me. Hey, dude, bang, bang. Or, run away, or whatever the game is. Doing something. But I decided instead, no, I want to stick with Landmark. And in fact, after my goal before SOE Live was to expand my schedule and get Landmark Daily going, and initially it was set to be Combat Daily. Combat didn't really turn out to be all it was cracked up to be, so it switched to just Landmark Daily, and I've been doing 2 hours of Landmark a day on top of this show, and on top of content creations and previously Castles and Crap Shacks. And even going all the way back, the thing that actually got me to finally go out and get a webcam and start streaming regularly was being on Into the Portal. And I was on that for a couple of months before I started up my own stuff. But it's been it's just been a really slow process, and the number of viewers that I could be getting playing other games and new followers if I just ride the hype train of a bunch of other games, I'm sure I'd be way further ahead. Even the stuff I'm doing with Who's Gaming now, I'm playing all sorts of new games and upcoming games, and we got giveaway stuff for Gauntlet the other day. We gave away 2 exclusive Warrior items and Gauntlet itself. And there were 2 sets of those giveaways. We had like over 100 people in the channel, but that's such a minimal amount compared to if I had been there on day 1 streaming it at the moment that it launched, and trying to spread the brand that way. So it's a difficult sort of balancing act for people that are trying to turn their streaming into monetized content, because the donations aren't coming. It's not a jump scare game where somebody's throwing $5 at you every 10 minutes to make you scream and squeal. So hype trains. The hype train bubble burst.
Hype trains
like,
are bubbles, and bubbles eventually burst. Yeah, like the last
March.
time I saw that happen. I saw that happen in full effect was Archage. Like they hit that train at full speed out of the gate months too early on that shit, and just watch them burn. All they did was selectively handpick, some of the biggest streamers who they know are open and friendly to giveaways, and it's what they're about, and and they get them excited about the game, and bammo. But anyway, we bring it back to Landmark. Before we do, I just want to say, and most of us, what we're doing, there isn't a paywall preventing you from watching my YouTube channel. Do I have videos that I do exclusively for people who are part of my Patreon? Yeah, but you're not. The major content is available for free. Always has been, always will be. But the people who give me money every month, it inspires me to keep doing it. For for Giovanni, I'm sure it's the same thing. Like he's got bills to pay. He's got to worry about, getting his bike. Like there's real world shit we're all dealing with. We have real lives away from this camera. And if you like what people are doing and they ask, or put out there, hey, support what we're doing by supporting our sponsors, or support what we're doing by putting $1 in the pot, or a quarter in the pot, or a nickel in the pot. Sometimes it's not even about the amount of money you give. It's just the fact that you give something. Support what you like and it will stick around. Then, like this happened like when I was doing my old Star Wars The Old Republic podcast. Listenership just went phew. So eventually it was us talking to her. It felt like it was us talking to ourselves and 50 people. And so it was like, well, we'll take a break, and it kind of faded away. It took like a year before I started getting complaints from people. Where's the show? It took you a fucking year to notice there wasn't a new episode. Why do you think there isn't a new episode? Like if you disengage and you're not involved in one way or another, the content goes away.
My end all be all of this conversation, and really like my opinion on it, is it's very straightforward. I never expect anybody to donate to me. I don't actually even care, to be honest. Like, I don't mind going out and getting a job. I do this straight up because I love it. But what really bothers me is only when when it brings negativity, because I do accept those things, because I'm a Twitch partner, because I have a donations tab, because that's something that I make available for people to make this something that I can do more frequently. And it turns into people just becoming negative, trying to bring me down, trying to bring down the community. I'm very rational in thinking, but I'm very easily affected by emotion. And so like when people like have a lot of this negativity, I think it really does a big disservice to the streamers and to SOE who's trying to promote us, and to a lot of the just the people who support the live streamers by creating this negative environment and making us out to be something that we're not. So I guess that's just all I would ever want, is people to try to look at this look at this in a positive light.
And I can certainly at least speak for the three of us here. No one here is looking to get wealthy. We're just trying to make sure we have a roof over our head and we got food in the fridge. I don't think any one of us is like, shit, man, I've got crystal silverware because of the donations to my stream. Like, no, we're just trying to make sure ends are met. That's it.
There are people that started their streaming on Landmark that have gotten to that point, though, but they've moved on to a lot of other things, not just Landmark. So what were you going to say there?
Cool. So I know we have today to talk about like other things like optimization.
Yes, that's absolutely. Yes. So let's move on the list. Yeah. I tell you what, let's get because you're both builders or have been. Why don't you guys get like all the ogre talk out of the way, and then we can move on to like some of the other stuff, because I know Nero is probably frothing at the mouth to talk ogre stuff.
There's no getting through the ogre talk. We now have like 55 minutes left, and I might even just hold off for some of that for the next week. The one thing I do want to go through is kind of the history of ogres that we got to see on the workshop show, but I'll get to that in a moment. I just kind of want to talk about what we saw on the Landmark live show, and just address that first. So we've got ogre doors. One set of ogre doors is going to be in the game. Mm-hmm. That way we aren't without ogre doors, and there's going to be more coming. So don't just get married to that one. We're going to have multiple. The new ivory texture. Take the stucco pattern, make it more whitish grayish, and give it kind of a reflection. And that is the ivory material that we're going to be able to start building with. And I'm guessing they're potentially going to be refining that, making it more animal-like, natural looking, and changing it in such a way that it maybe even has more variations, like decorated versions. Ogres really don't go for like intricate carvings, but I can see there still being some materials that use it. Um, Waypoints. Holy crap. We're getting waypoints.
Yes,
and
very excited about
it's not
this.
like PlanetSide 2 where you only get one. It's like PlanetSide 2 where you can get a shitload. And if your party can't see it, then in 2 weeks they'll put the fix in so your party can see it. But the idea is that it's not just your own personal waypoints, that your buddies can see them too. That's huge. That is
You know
such a
what
big
this
deal.
reminds me of? This is totally right out of the Star Wars Galaxies. So,
Yeah. No, I still referenced PlanetSide 1 before that. That's where I first saw it being
well, Star Wars
used.
Galaxies came out before PlanetSide 1.
Did it?
Yeah. Yep. Or right around, like, literally right, like...
Yeah, that's
pretty
right. That's
sure
right.
PlanetSide-
I was at THQ in 2003, and I was playing Star Wars Galaxies beta then. And then 2004, I started with PlanetSide 1 for Windows XP users because they gave everyone a free copy.
Was definitely, for me, the coolest waypoint system I had ever seen, because what I did like about it was, and I'm hoping this is what it sounds like Landmarks is going to be, it was essentially, yes, drink. For those of you who don't know, there's a drinking game involved with how many times Adam can mention Star Wars Galaxies on the show. So it'd be just a column of light, like whatever the marker was, it'd be a giant column of light that kind of went off into infinity. So that if you were 300-400 meters away from it, you could always see it on the horizon. So getting lost when you had a waypoint marker was pretty impossible to happen. You know, it was kind of cool. And you could have multiples, and then you would have a tracker on your screen as well that would have arrows pointing in the direction that things were supposed to be. So, you know, you had your favorite setup. Here's town, here's house, here's this, here's that. And you always knew where you were going. You know, like it just made it really, really awesome. And I always loved the idea that you could see these things way off on the horizon. You know what I mean? Different colored ones meant different colored things. So I think this is an awesome idea and way overdue in Landmark. For sure.
It seems like it's giving birth, though, to something that I don't know if I love, which I personally am not a huge fan in MMOs of organized direction. I prefer in my MMOs to have this feeling of, and like, helplessness almost, like, shit, do I go to the left or do I go to the right? And now, of course, this is a little bit different because it's more of a PvP, like, group environment type thing. And I hope that it stays at waypoints and doesn't start to, we don't start to see things like arrows and, like zones on maps.
I'll give you this. It's
just
fine for Landmark, but EverQuest Next, that stuff is forbidden. For EverQuest Next, I don't think... If there's a waypoint, that's a rallying call, and that's it. That's like the only thing that I feel like a waypoint.
No. Sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with both of you. You're both very wrong on this, because this is the 21st effing century. It's an opinion. This is the 21st effing century, and I got time to be worrying about, am I supposed to be going left or right? I don't need... half of my game time me dealing with being lost.
But here's why
I hear what you guys are saying. I hear.
But I didn't explain, and I need to jump in before you continue, because it's directly
explain.
with what you're saying. Because the thing is, you're not getting lost in EverQuest Next. EverQuest Next, you'll have a map. That map will show you everything. It'll show you, here's a city, here's a town, a general direction of where everything is, right? But in EverQuest Next, there's no linear content. So it's not like, okay, I just need to bump through all these quests really quickly and get this shit done. It's what happened. If I go over here, I could change the world. And I might take a wrong turn and completely, there's a reason why making a bad turn or going a different direction actually makes sense in a procedural game like EverQuest Next instead of the generic MMO that we've ever played. So
here's the thing. I agree with all of that. That's a good idea. But when I need to move through the world with purpose, or I need to remember where my friend's house is, or I want to remember where that cool waterfall was that's off the beaten path, I want to be able to set down a waypoint.
I can get with that. I can get with that too,
Yeah.
and I think it could be something maybe like you pull up your map and you can kind of like put a nick in your map or something, or like
Like
put a
putting a
pin.
pin saying, remember this here. I want
If
to
you've been
remember
there,
this location.
I'm cool with it. If it's something like I just am new to this territory and here's a bunch of like directions on where to go, like that, I'm not cool with.
See, now here's the thing: the Secret World, an MMO that's currently out there right now, and every time it comes up, I give it my highest recommendation to folks that really are looking for an interesting world story with some really unique puzzle solving. They do a waypoint system. They are heavily quest driven. Now, the unique thing about that game is the nature of the quests and solving them isn't always go there, kill 20 of those things, come back with their scalps. There's a lot of no, you're going to have to go to City Hall, look through the file system, find the index card that has the information. Like there's real puzzle solving involved. And they have they have a waypointing system that point you in the direction of you're supposed to be over here. And a lot of times what happens is the quest, you're supposed to be going to City Hall to look up something. And on your map, it will highlight the building of City Hall, but that's it. Like once you get into City Hall's building, it's up to you to figure out what fucking room you're supposed to be in which of the 50 filing cabinets you can interact with you're supposed to be which card you're supposed to be using. There's still a lot left for you to figure out and solve with it. It gives you enough information so that you're not wasting time looking for the destination you're supposed to be at for whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. Is all. I don't like that idea of like there are times I want to explore and get lost, and believe me, like my first 2 weeks in EverQuest 2 was me with an invisibility spell trying to see exactly how deep behind enemy lines I could survive, and that went on for like 2 weeks. Like I had fun doing stuff like that. I really, really do. But when I do want to move, okay, I'm logging into play and quest. I know this is sound horrible. I want my handheld. I want, a marker that says go over here, talk to that person, and then you're supposed to be in this general area. And
you, my friend,
I'm
are an
happy
advocate
with
of the
that.
devil.
Here's the thing.
I know.
If the coordinate system is limited to like kind of course placement and it's just XZ coordinates, it doesn't have any Y coordinate consideration, then you're not going to know, is it on the surface? Is it deep? How deep is it? And for a lot of the content that we're going to be seeing, that's going to be a big deal. If someone puts down a waypoint, it's like, well, where the hell is it? Do I just go to the top of the waypoint and start digging down?
Am I digging ground?
Yeah,
down
exactly.
For,
Is it
200 meters? Well, no, yeah.
Yeah, pulverizer time. But
Diggs is agreeing with me. I hate the needless time sink of searching for a specified path that was in. I mean, well, he sort of agrees with me. I
wonder,
know.
though.
I mean, you both make
that's-
points, and I think there's room for both. I think there's room for
I
both.
agree.
I can see why you don't want the story elements, the narrative elements, to be ruined with hand holding, and I can agree with that. I just don't
In a
want
game
to
like
be
Arcade,
lost
I'm
for
really
hours.
into it. In a game like Arcade, I'm really into it because I'll get bored if I go in the wrong way. If I run for 15 minutes down, to the east, and then I find out like shit, I was supposed to go, north instead. I mean, that's a huge waste of my time, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But I don't think EQ is going to be like that. EQN. So.
I think they are trying to get a little bit of the role playingness, like at least talk to someone in town before you head out blindly. At least get some direction for yourself. I think of Ultima Online in that it really was just an open. There weren't signs really anywhere. There wasn't really much guidance everywhere, and I don't really remember there being a robust map system that makes it really easy to find your way around. So when you set out from town, you had to know where you were going or know that you were going to be forging your way in the wilderness and prepare appropriately. Otherwise, you would be, putting life and, more importantly, all of the gear that you're currently equipped with and carrying at risk. So, it was much more of a consequence in that game to just kind of go out all willy-nilly and try to make your way. You might get lucky or you might get ambushed by 20 PKs who insta-jib you, because that's latency was kind of a weird thing in that game. But I think it was also a little bit of a different situation there, and what we're seeing with EQ and Landmark, than what we've been seeing with a lot more of the theme park MMOs, because all the content really will be changing. I said earlier, when you're in EverQuest, you're never lost. You're always exactly where you are in the world. And when I say that, I mean there's always going to be some relevant content to do where you're at or somewhere nearby. It doesn't matter if that's what you're specifically looking to do. There's always going to be something you can do. So it's not that you're necessarily lost so much as you might just not necessarily be in the place that you intend to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
a big part of this, I think it has to do with, there's never been an MMO that I've played where I actually I genuinely want to sit there and read the quest. I mean, I've done it. I've never been like,
oh yeah,
wow,
I mean, if
my life has changed. If they do, I want EverQuest Next, and I think Landmark through player creation will do it. I want EverQuest Next to be the kind of game where I, for the first time in a long time, really feel immersed into the MMO because of the rich storytelling and because of the AI that they have. So I think that if that happens, if we are able to become immersed into the story and actually want to read the quests, you won't run into the situation where you're like zombie mode running around trying to find the door. I think it'll be much more clear to you what you're supposed to be doing because you would have actually paid attention and like been there with the point of the quest, and you understand it more fully than if you just like read the TLDR of it.
I don't think there's going to be any pointless static dialogue in EverQuest Next. I don't think there's anybody you can talk to that isn't going to have meaningful. Go ahead.
To be fair, and I mean this sincerely, if you have not given EverQuest 2 a real fair try recently, it's free to play, obviously. I have had some really chilling, hair-raising story moments in the way they present their narrative in that game. And a lot of it sometimes depends on you finding the pieces of the book and reading a book in game. But they have definitely done their share of putting lore and making it interesting. And there's this, I remember being caught, I think it's the Dark Paw stuff, I don't remember. There was a whole series, pieces of a book that you were collecting was about a wizard who was trapped in a cave when the moon shattered and changed the whole topography between EverQuest and EverQuest 2. And it was him chronicling being trapped in this cave when this happened, only to realize that eventually he made his way out into this ledge where he could watch Norath burning and melting. And he was trapped there. Him writing the story, knowing that he was dying there on that ledge. And that this book and these words were it really stayed with me because I was just haunted by the idea of finishing his, collecting these pieces. And to their credit, most of the people involved with the lore building in EverQuest and EverQuest 2 are involved in EverQuest Next. So I am sure that rich lore is going to be presented in a new and exciting way somehow over there. I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident. I really am. It's the one thing that I think, I can see how Landmark, it being a new thing and a weird thing and a building game, and, it's got, it being different things for different people depending on how they came to the table for Landmark. EverQuest Next, at the end of the day, is next generation massively multiplayer online roleplay game. I expected to deliver on that, and I'm pretty excited, for that, and pretty optimistic. I think that's going to be a little easier for them to land as far as meeting expectation, because a little more clearly defined what, great. Yeah, we expect new systems and new AI, and the story bricks looks great and all of that, but, we expect to be able to adventure in Norath and team up with our friends and have adventures and it be exciting. And I think at the end of the day, that will definitely be delivered.
So, waypoints.
Big reason. Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no, I was going to say, this is...
Waypoints.
We should probably be wrapping up the discussion on waypoints and get some more of the content, because... Yeah,
we definitely do a good job of ranting.
Yes, we did. Well, this is the show for it. This is for the show for it. Let's see here. Well, so obviously tomorrow, many of us are excited about the optimization, quote unquote, stuff, the multi-threading, SLI support, If multi-threading and SLI nothing to you, probably neither is of any import to you. Then probably a level of detail improvements. This is what makes everything look like shit on the horizon.
Yeah, and that's
big giant poo towers.
well. That's actually what they're
dirt,
changing.
mud.
Is that when you pretty much you're gonna have to go into every, I guess, the 40 by 40 by 40 regions and change one block in each one. But once you've done that, and you could just paste something in the air and delete it, and I'm sure that would be fine. But once you've done that, it'll do the level of detail readjustment. They now have a new system. I believe it's based on kind of saving your build as a mesh, and then lowering the detail based on that, rather than trying to LOD down the voxels themselves in the distance. So it's going to look a lot cleaner. It's going to make things look a lot more precise in the distance and a lot more representative of what it actually is, rather than, like you said, giant poo towers in the distance. It's huge.
Exactly.
I wish we had this in alpha. I wish we had this when I was still doing full island tours. This is huge. This is going to make things really, really nice, and I think it's even like the screenshots and content creations are going to be a lot better when I fly way out and it starts to hit like 2 or 3 levels of LOD by the time I finally get to where I want to take the picture. Things will actually look good now instead of everything going to crap and giant seams and walls and stuff like that.
Was this the change that they were talking about at SOE Live? Like, is this the massive overhaul to LOD, or is it just like a slight change?
This is part of it. I believe this is. Okay. I don't know if this is all of it, but this is definitely one of the major steps in the right direction for it.
Cool. Look forward to it. Of course. Do any of you guys run SLI?
No, I would love to have another 780 in here, but at this point, I'd probably just buy a 980 and sell the 780.
I think all the rendering though is still being done with the CPU, right? So
no, I don't know. Are you sure about that? I thought the rendering was mostly on the GPU.
I've been told that the way that right now it's mostly using our CPU, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. The rendering is usually a GPU function. If that's on the CPU side, that's a bit of optimization that really needs to be fixed. But I'm pretty sure it's on the GPU side of things. It'd be a good thing to ask them about and get some more clarification on. But I think one way or the other, the multi-threaded rendering and the LOD improvements are going to make the game look a lot better and make it a lot more playable for a lot of folks. So I think this is a great time for it. We've got PvP. We're going to be getting PvE in December. It's definitely starting to get ready for more people coming back into Landmark, I would say. All right, so we have the new UI that they're showing off. It's a little bit tighter to access the tools or not the tools, but the materials, and it seems like you can sort through them. Did they actually get the palette system in where you could assign materials to a palette and then just be able to draw from that?
I don't think they did
see anything about that.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, somebody was requesting that, and like a favorites tab or something, and but yeah, I don't think that they did that quite yet. It'd be beautiful. It'd be a great advantage to people who are doing the workshops, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, actually they said there's going to be more improvements coming with the UI in the update 2 weeks from now, so that probably is when we're going to get the palettes actually set up and things. So yeah, a comment from H1Z and Jane there. Operation Make Game Faster, OMFG. That was something they did for PlanetSide too. So a little bit of that going on here too, but it's not fully like SMED. For anybody who doesn't know, PlanetSide 2 was so unoptimized like a year after it launched that SMED just came in and said, "No, you are not doing any more content development until the game is optimized." And so for the next 2 months, they were working on optimization.
A game that really impressed me with optimization was Shadows of Mordor. I felt like the game ran so smoothly while looking fantastic.
Well, keep in mind, this is the same company and probably the same engine that the Batman Arkham series has been built on.
Yeah.
So throwing some
It is.
Urix in there, that's no challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely did a couple of changes, but it's not like literally the same system. Oh, I mean, I guess it is the same system, like the same.
The combat looks the
kit,
same.
but yeah,
You've got the double vision modes like you have. It's they used so much of that engine and did something completely awesome with it. Not
yeah.
that the Batman
But
Arkham
it's
series
just still
isn't.
really,
Yeah.
it's really optimized, and I mean, the Batman series won like awards for games, like gaming awards. I think it was the game of the year.
Yeah.
Or IGN or something.
Well,
They're-
I mean,
they're good
it was
games.
just the whole package, though. It wasn't just the game engine; it was the story, the way it was presented, the voice acting. Like it was the complete, well polished presentation that showed you, hey, not only do superhero games, not have to suck, but can be kind of awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of two forms of looking at things, so now they're actually going to be implementing the build mode and non-build mode. Was that this week that they have that?
We spent a good portion of our show last week talking about this idea of we should have two different modes, and lo and behold, look at this.
Yep. Well, we weren't the only ones giving them that feedback, and I think the entire community was like, "Hey, what the hell?" And some people was just knee-jerk reaction. Some people it was looking at it rationally. It's like, yeah, they do need to add more controls, but we'd like to be able to have a division between the different modes of stuff that we do. I mean, I think about PlanetSide 2, that you have different controls for when you're in the map screen, when you're in the general menu interface, when you're walking around as a soldier. If you're a max unit, you've got different controls. If you're in a ground vehicle, if you're in an air vehicle, if you're in a mounted wall turret. So there's so many different control schemes, and all of them, they're kind of based on the same similar setup, but you can have them diversely different. If you wanted, you could have like all of the flight control stuff on a flight stick and a Nostromo, so that way when you're in flying mode, you just reach over to your flying controls and it's all super awesome and you're just blowing people away. But that doesn't work for your normal gameplay, so you normally just rock the keyboard and mouse. That's different things for different folks. This is definitely a step in the right direction. I kind of want to see combat separated from building, and I guess travel is really or adventuring is kind of the general default what you're doing in the game.
I mean, I think that it was absolutely necessary for them to eventually do something like this, and I feel like they showed it at SOE Live I think it's been on their radar for a long time, and even their master plan to do to give builders like a build mode essentially. So it looks really good. I'm really excited to use it tomorrow. So see how it goes. Hopefully, it doesn't totally throw off all of our muscle memory and.
That's already been thrown off.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
even
you guys
more,
are already
right?
screwed up from the last change, so it'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, inventory expanders. I had no idea this was coming. They're taking away all of our inventory expanders and re-granting it to us. And I believe they said we're going to be getting, was it like 3 times as much storage space from each of those? So,
That's good.
that's pretty nice.
So that's all an improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, no complaint here. Though it might make, if everything is completely full, everything's going to get kicked to overflow, including the expander items. So you might need to drop something somewhere for a moment in order to actually access them and expand your inventory again. But they assure you, if you haven't hit the inventory limit, then you should be able to keep expanding with these pockets or whatever they're called. So
Somebody asked a good question about because it used to be that you can get up to 100 spots, and now I think like they didn't mention if like you can go over that now, or because people probably I bet there are some people who bought up to 100 slots. I wonder what'll happen. If they'll get their money back or.
yeah. Oh, I don't know.
They will have 1 billion slots.
Are they
A
bound
billion
or are they
slots
tradable?
for everybody?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
And then there's a question: does that count Vault Expander? So I don't know if it's just personal inventory or if it's the Vault as well. I'm guessing it's both. It seems like it'd be weird to do one and not the other. Crafting bags is the way to go. Okay, Asphyx, on top of having the prop inventory, or rather, on top of having the materials inventory, rather, we should have a prop inventory. There's no reason why it should be a challenge to carry 100 candles around, or 100 lumicide orbs. There's no reason why it needs to take up all the inventory space that it does. That's a feature that I've been talking about for a while, and I really hope that they'll give it to us at some point, because it's just it slows the building process, and it slows the process of gameplay to have to manage all of those. Let people use all of their inventory space for weapons that they've crafted and loot that they've collected, and all the one of every exclusive item that Landmark ever has ever. Don't force people to stuff 25 treasure chests with all of their props because they're not using them for the current builds, or just delete them all, and because we can't even salvage right now. I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on the subject. If you have more than the maximum size, you get the objects back and they can be traded. So I'm guessing it's got like an overflow thing, that if you use one and it brings you to 102 items, that you get a 2-item expander that you can trade. So
I mean, they haven't really changed like mining a whole bunch since the game has even been released. I feel like it's kind of been the same. And so overall, I've kind of just felt like we shouldn't really have to. I don't think we should have to mine. I don't think we should have to make. I think props should be free. Like, I don't see what the point is. Still craft them, but like, I don't see what the point is of making us have to like actually harvest all this shit when it's just literally a waste of our time. Like, all this shit will be deleted, and eventually, we don't have it anymore. So,
eventually, to have economy and not to get players in closed beta to be used to something that's not going to exist in open beta.
I mean, they do it with the weapons, right? They gave us all the free weapons and the free armor. I guess because this is beta, and because we don't have that yet, I feel like I guess we aren't all adults, but we should act like adults, and we should, we should take this as a gift, or if they would give us the gift of that, and then when, just deal with it when it comes into the game, and know that it's not something that makes sense for an economy. But that's my personal opinion. Of course, I'm not trying to like say that it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Well, early on, it had a lot to do with seeing and verifying, like, all right, with these kinds of tools, it takes the players X amount of, time to gather X amount of resource. Those are things that do need to be tweaked and worked out before the game goes live.
Don't you think, though, that it'll change? Like, I feel like eventually we are not going to have all of those ore just sitting on the surface of the world like we have it now. I feel like things are going to drastically change. And I just always felt like until that like needs to be stress tested, or like really needs to be like fine tuned, I just always felt like it seemed like a waste of time. That's do you think that's going to change though? I don't know.
I suppose it probably will. I mean, let's face it, in the early days of the game, other than building and mining, there wasn't much to do. So
Sure.
if they didn't let you guys mine, they're just like, here, you hit this magic button and it will give you resources. You've been in half it, like, there are players that would not have been engaged in the game.
What if they did
right.
like elementals needed to be mined for, but the actual like things to build didn't? I think that makes a lot of sense. That way people will still have to go mine, people who want to be crafters, but still allow the people who want to build to just have free reign and not have to worry about it.
If they really just wanted to give everybody materials, they would make a machine that's called a material generator that has all the materials on it, and you can craft it at the hub, and you can, you don't even have to put it down and use it as a machine. You can just use it from your inventory, and you just tell it what materials to produce, and it just produces the materials for you, and you don't have to worry about it, and it would be a closed beta sort of feature. You're right, it would definitely help out a lot of people want to be able to get in and build, but don't want to go through the process of harvesting everything. If I want to build some grand castle out of Ethereum, good luck. That's going to take hours and hours and hours to accumulate. Or maybe spend upwards of $20 to get the volume of voxels that I need to be able to do what I want to do. So it's it's kind of an interesting thing. I think it would be nice to be able to give us materials. Now, the other thing, the armor keeps getting brought up, weapons and armor, and I will say that these are most definitely nowhere close to a finished product because, for one thing, we don't have keywords, and I want to talk about that in a second. But the other thing is they don't actually have attributes. You don't craft it with some plus or minus to the stats and the upgrade slots and the ability to upgrade it to the different tiers and put the fine customizations on it that you want to. And that stuff probably isn't coming for a while because that's almost like if we're in crafting 2.0, that sounds more like crafting 3.0 from where we're at. So I definitely did want to talk about the keywords. They didn't really discuss it that much. Is it actually going in this week?
I'm beginning to
Maybe
wonder.
they're going to surprise us.
Yeah, I thought they said last week that keywords were going in this week, and they talked about keywords for a moment, but they didn't really give us any information, any details on it. So I'm wondering if we're just going to log in and all of a sudden the staff has ice element on it, and there's things that we can do to support the an ice build, or we're going to have fire with the bows, and we're going to have a fire build there, or if weapon, the sword is going to be a physical thing, there's going to be the physical build, and those are the three elements that they initially introduced to us and allow us to leverage for builds. That would be great. That would be a great start, even if there's only a couple items we can use to try to enhance it from one to the other. That would still be pretty helpful. Having resistances on armor, having the elemental resistances, physical resist, all of that sort of stuff, that would be great. I don't know if we're getting the keyword system, if we do get it, if it's actually going to be anything meaningful, or if they're just tacking the words on the items we already have and then they'll add the systems for it later.
I mean, it definitely spice up combat. A lot of people are. I mean, combat's not very popular at the moment, so I would very much welcome it, and I wonder why they didn't mention it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was expecting to hear a whole lot about it, but they just kind of squeaked out a little bit of detail and didn't really seem like they wanted to talk about it. So that's why I'm not thinking it's actually going to be in the update tomorrow. If it is, it seems like it's going to be kind of a minimized thing. He's chewing his cud, Zach. He's
It's not audible, is it? Just
no, just see it every now and then. All right, so I'm going to bring up the hilarious trip through memory lane images that we got. I basically just kind of cut these from YouTube. This is some of the funny stuff that led to the ogres we have today. So first off, and by the way, you can find this on the EverQuest Next forum. No, you can't actually find these on the EverQuest Next forum. You could only find them in the episode 18 video. So we have first the very starting artwork to represent the ogres, the ogre male, and they look like simian. They look ape-like in nature, like giant ass gorillas or apes of some sort. And there's also this weird thing. I wasn't sure if it was because they drew the side profile first and then had to make room for the front profile, but you see the character's got a little bit of a lean to it. And I believe both of them have that. It is that the idea is that the character's supposed to be a little weird and misshapen. So this was a representation of the very first, idea of what they thought ogres were going to be, going back to EverQuest 1. It's pretty hilarious. It's damn laughable.
I mean, it's
asymmetric.
It really plays into that old style of ogre, right? Like it looks very stupid. It looks very like it doesn't look like it's in control of its limbs, And I think that I'm actually really happy with the changes that they're making, specifically because I don't like this type of ogre.
Well, this was they never even like actually settled on this ogre. This was just like early EQ1 concept.
Right. No, I'm just saying that this. I'm glad that even if they did or didn't settle, I'm glad that this is not anything close to what we're going to be having, and that this was just like totally a joke, or just totally like moved on from. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't quite moved on from. I would say they evolved from it. And then this one, the show is officially, if it wasn't already, officially NSFW because dem ogre boobs. And they actually commented on the ogre butt being gigantic. But this was the representation of the female, and it's like, it kind of made me think of the Hulk with boobs, because of the hair in particular. It just made it look like the Incredible Hulk had somehow sprouted a rack.
it looks like a gorilla went to L.A. and got a boob job. Honestly,
You're right. Some very metropolitan gorilla right there.
it really is. They're both very ape-like, and they look very primitive, like cavemen, like cavemen on steroids.
Yeah, like giant cavemen. So we have a concept then that kind of came after that, and this was for a male, and they said they didn't go with it because it was maybe a little bit too bondagey looking, and yeah, it does actually have very much a BDSM aesthetic to it, with kind of leather straps that are riveted and kind of covering the body, but still a lot of skin showing. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in ogre kink, but that that
Dude, where you been, bro?
it looks like it's battle gear, but not necessarily like go out and fight a war, more like gladiatorial type armor.
His
It looks
face
like
to me looks a little bit
something the
draconian.
Harkonnens would wear.
What was
It looks
that?
like the Harkonnens would wear that in Dune.
Ah, yeah, a little bit.
It's
I
like
get
Donkey
you.
Kong and combined with like a Godzilla.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, he actually
Yeah.
looks like, to me, like an orc, like a World of Warcraft orc, is what he
Yeah.
definitely looks like to me.
He looks like kind of reptilian. I don't know, that maybe that's the shape of the head. Kind of like, to me, reminds me of like a dragon head, or like it looks like he has a very big nostril, like very big nostrils, and
Yeah.
the jaw is like really long, like a snout almost. Very strange. I don't. If I just closed my eyes and never saw an ogre, I don't think I'd come anywhere close to picturing this.
Yeah, Jane, leather suspender suit holding a loincloth, holding up the loincloth. That's right. That's all it is. So
This is a baby.
Yeah, I guess so. They look ugly when they're young. So here is more of the male that they kind of settled on. And immediately when I saw it, it made me think of an ogre or a dwarven barrel. Like, that was the first thing that I saw when I looked at it. And that's mostly just kind of that pattern going across the midsection. It looks like the banding on like some sort of ornate barrel, and it's like there's some ogre sticking out of it. But no, this is actually closer to the ogres that they actually went with, from what I understand.
Huh. Looks like he's got like a
Yeah.
packet of like Marlboro Reds on his arm, ogre style.
Yep.
It's.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it's.
know, it's
They're
not a
all
race.
very interesting.
It's not a race I'm ever going to play, so I don't care.
But all right, so like, are you saying that in general, or just like for these older versions? Like, you would never play
Just
this
in
back
general,
then, or would
like
you?
back then, now, in the future, ogre's not a race that I would ever roll and be like, yeah, this I'm going to spend the next 200 hours playing until I get the cap. Yeah, no.
Nice.
They're not gonna happen.
I think that one thing that we can see for that EQN is doing is really changing the thoughts that we have on all the different races. They even made a joke about changing dwarves, which they didn't want to, but they think maybe they're going to. And so, like, while I would agree with you, I would never want to play an ogre that looks something like this or the ones previous to this. But they're doing so much work to the ogres that I actually just feel like, well, I guess we'll wait till we get there. But I would play them. I would play them today, but I wouldn't play them back here.
And this is the
See,
ogre female that we've got here,
go
which
ahead. Yeah.
looks almost more like a peasant, like an ogre peasant to me than anything. So what were you going to say, Adam?
I was just going to say, for Giovanni's edification, I'm more of the player, and I've talked about this on the show before. Like, in EverQuest 2, I rolled the Fae. She's literally like a foot tall, but she's mage. So she will drop a comet on you and kill you in one shot, but she's like this big. And so,
Nice.
I mean, like, I'm the guy who literally cheered when they confirmed during their presentation at SOE Live that with their mixing system, you could be a tanking mage, which was something I had been speculating that I would be the guy that would do that. I would roll the Fey mage and then go tank with it, just because of the ridiculousness of, look at this tiny thing now tanking your whole group. You know, like, I would be that guy. I tend to, look for something that would be a little unique, or this isn't really stupid. I roll the race that's going to be the easiest to dress and have the most fashion options. So ogres, trolls, they're never getting the light of day. You know what I mean? Big, bulky, beefy guys. Generally, I tend to not be very interested in myself.
Fair enough.
But that's just me. That's personal preference. You know what I mean? Not that
Right.
should be inflicted on everyone, but that's just how I roll.
Well, I definitely. This is all personal preference too. I'll definitely be the guy standing next to you when you're trying to tank a mob as a mage, and I'll be the one ganking you, because I've actually always, I never have understood from a rational standpoint why people were okay with like tanky, not necessarily tanky mages, but like small, like a gnome tank. I never understood it. To like, personally, it drives me crazy in WoW when you see this like little tiny gnome just tanking a dragon just to the face, like bear claw to the face, no cares. It drives me crazy.
Remind me after the show. I will tweet at you, Giovanni, a screenshot of my Jedi, Steffi. She was a tiny, like 5'3", 5'4" Zabrak, soloing a crate dragon.
Drinks, by the way,
I'm-
everybody.
Yes, drink.
Okay.
Definitely will do that.
So this is the newbie garb that they were saying for the ogre female, and I just want to kind of compare it to the ogre male, the one we just saw a second ago, because that like I said, it looks like peasant gear versus the this, I believe, is what they were saying was the newbie gear for the male relative to the female. And you see it's a lot more leather, but a lot less kind of cloth coverage. And I can see once again why they didn't go this way and they went kind of more with the other one. So I'm actually going to bring up now the finished products, what they actually look like, the first pass in EverQuest 1. Here is the male. Now, the male, I would say, has better fidelity, and I'll tell you why, and we'll compare to the female in a moment. All the joints and everything kind of look like they're in the right places and everything. The feet look big, and just a big old chunky thing, and that like trail of chest hair goes all the way up to the head. So there's like not really a break in the action there, and they look hilarious. They just, by today's standards, they just look so laughable. Like, PlayStation 1 had better mobs than this.
What's going on with his feet too? Like his toes they look like they're like a normal tan color, and then they just have these giant yellow.
Yeah, so their
tints to them.
toenails actually don't, and this is especially with the ones in EverQuest Next. They don't have toenails like ours that are flat. They have toenails that are more like straightforward.
Claws, right?
Yeah, they're more almost like, not like a hoof, but I think of like elephants, how they've got more of the bony part towards the I guess it'd be chitinous towards the front of it rather than towards the top of it, and they've got the same sort of thing going on here. Looks like a South Park character, yeah, a little bit.
They talk about it a bit actually in Enemy of My Enemy, how they do have like sort of like claws instead of, they actually call them claws, I think. So, yeah.
Nice. And let me show the female version, which by contrast looks absolutely hilarious because the hands are a lot smaller. The feet are relatively similar proportion, and they've mostly got their boobs hanging out. But it's the fact that it goes from, the flesh tone straight to this weird, fucked up looking face, and there's no material to help transition it. That's why I was saying, once again, the ogre male, you've got that chest hair and that neckline or whatever, and that transition into the face better. This one, it looks like they cut the head off some poor pudgy thing and put something else's head on it, like drew some eyes on a melon or something. I don't know. Oh, crap! Oh, that's terrible.
Man. Yeah, I think one of the weird things about it is that just like there's no like tech, like the hair is just like painted onto the head.
Yeah.
So it just looks so like, it just looks like a pentagon, or
Yeah.
I guess that'd be an octagon.
Yeah.
No, 1, 2, 3. That'd be a hexagon.
Uncanny Valley much? All right.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is. So, by contrast, let me bring up where we're at today. What our ogre buddies look like these days. Now that looks more like what I would expect an ogre to look like when someone says ogre. I could also take those being really beefy, ripped orcs, depending on the lore in the game that I'm playing. But for the context of EverQuest Next, yeah, those are some pretty tough ogres there. We see 2 skin tones. They had talked about more skin tones, like a darker kind of skin tone being a rarer thing. So when players are the only ones that are going to be the darker ogres, for example, and I think that would be a great sort of feature to add. And not that all players have to do that, but just as an option. We see it's basically the same dude with some amount of extra armor on and 2 different color tones. The other thing is they said the scars are not going to come by default. They talked about that during the show, and during the workshop show rather, and I really think it would be great if they did have, and that'd be great especially if it was just an ogre thing, because it plays into their lore a lot, that you get to choose when you get a scar if you want to keep it or if you want to just let it heal. And there's some cultures that have like a tribal warfare thing going on where they use weapons that are intentionally weak and intentionally non-lethal, so when they go and have their tribal battles with the other tribe, they harm each other and have little scrapes and wounds and stuff, but that nobody really gets killed. And afterward they'll go and rub ash and stuff in their wounds, so the scars will show and be more prominent and be something that they can then show off to people. And ogres are really all about showing off to people. That's in fact why their cities are all wide open the way they are in open air, so that way anybody can strut through town with their new armor or the head of some creature or whatever, and everyone else can notice and be like, oh damn. And it's also very social culture.
I think the biggest thing that would that shows these different from an orc is like these are much more structurally like stout and like human like, where I feel like orcs in other games tend to look a little bit more deformed, and here I feel like the size is another big thing. Like we're not really getting like something to compare it to, but I feel like an orc would probably be like half the size of this ogre.
Human comes up to the sternum of these ogres, I believe. You're a human's about like the mass of going from the foot to about the left or the right or whichever pectoral muscle, and just to the very bottom of it, and that's about the same. For a big human, that's about the same density of mass. Like these ogres are huge. I would say they're probably four times the mass of a human, right. And probably still like a good 1.5, 2 times the mass of Karens. Karens are big, but they're not giant and bulky like this. They're a lot more
Another
sleek.
thing too, I don't think that orcs would have beards like this, right? Like orcs are more shaggy.
Some orcs rock the beards. I think some of the Warcraft orcs rock some pretty gnarly beards too, and I think Warhammer ones as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and WoW, I know like I think Gramash Hellscream has like a kind of braided beard, but these kind of almost look like to me like giant dwarfs, really.
A little bit.
With tusks.
A little, yeah. Honestly, they do. They kind of like cross between human and dwarf, just a big beefy dwarf
With a funny head. And that's the one funny thing to me is their heads are so tiny, and if Player Studio is getting a big thing and being able to see the eyes is going to be a big thing, I'm wondering if they're going to have to change the proportions of the head compared to the rest of the body to make the eyes more visible, or what they're going to do to address that. Because if you're a small character and they're tall, you're already at a disadvantage of being able to see them see their eyes. Just a thought. So it's towards the end here. It's probably about time that we need to start looking at wrapping up. We have a ton more stuff to talk about with Ogres. Chances are this is probably going to be talked about on Theory Forge this week. I'm sure Evercast is going to get into some more about it. And chances are next week, because it's an off week from the updates, we're going to be talking about what we learned from this new update, what's cool about it, what we want different, and then probably get into more of the culture and the style guide for the Ogres, because there's a lot of awesome stuff there. I'm really excited to talk about them and really excited to get into building as well as seeing what other people build with them. Just the shape of the eyebrows, you might be right, Diggs. They do have big enough expressive eyebrows for that. But yeah, it is definitely time to wrap up here. So thank you all very much for coming. We have, of course, once again on screen left, VisGaming. Giovanni, why don't you give people a little rundown of where people can find you and what you're up to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm going to be streaming starting Monday, hopefully full time again. So 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/VisGaming. I'll just type hey in chat so you guys can just follow, or if you feel like it, of course. And then we do Theory Forge Fridays starting at 5 o'clock or 5:30 to 7, where it's myself and a bunch of other awesome streamers, including legendary Neurotoxin. We have lots of great guests and some really influential and awesome guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. So that's exciting. Friday Night Fight Club has been kind of like it's kind of been back and forth between like on and off. We are waiting, I think, for some optimizations and for a couple of changes because of how crazy the swords are right now. So we do, though. I guess the point is that 8 o'clock Friday night, you can come hang out on the live stream, do some combat. Sometimes we do tournaments with cash prizes, or like cash value prizes, like SOE cards and stuff like that. Other than that, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It is great having you on, and I definitely need to get you and Velix on here. Like I said, I've got the four-way format all set to have more people on here, so that'd be great. We'll probably have to do that maybe in a couple weeks or something. Give it a little bit of space here, but I mean, it's great.
If you don't mind, actually, I actually did forget because we haven't been doing Lorgasm because of me not streaming and a couple of changes in our schedules. So we have a new schedule where our Lorgasm is going to continue Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, all the times I'm saying are Pacific Standard Time, but 12 p.m. Saturdays are new versions of Lorgasm. So stay tuned for that. That's it.
Awesome. That should be really cool. And I'm sorry, one more time, what was the time from when to when that's going to be running?
That's from 12 p.m. Pacific time on Saturdays. Usually goes till about 2 p.m. Pacific, and just a mix of all sorts of lore. We talk about.
Oh no!
They're in there to help talk to us and stuff.
My internet crapped for a second there. Sorry. 12 to 2 though, you said, and that was
12 to 2.
Is that on both of your channels? Is that on your channel, his channel? What's
That's on on my channel. So twitch.tv/VisGaming.
okie dokie. And by the way, folks, you can't leave yet because we're going to bring this party over to Chip GM's place when we're done here. So, that's really cool. I'm glad that Lord Gadsden's going to be coming back. I've actually been missing that a bit myself here.
Oh yeah, we're excited too.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Adam, why don't you tell everybody what you're up to here?
Oh, my YouTube channel, P0MXII. It's the same as around here in these parts. There's been at least one video a month going up, but with some changes to the Patreon, I'm being told to switch that to doing a video a week, blah, blah, blah. So, starting next month, it'll probably be one video a week over there, YouTube/AT0MXII. Give it a subscribe. It's geek related, sometimes game related, etc. And Twitter, same thing. So come find me. I'm around. There you go.
All right. Whoops, I messed up the link there. All right, everybody, that's where you want to head.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, good stuff. Chip,
Chip, good guy.
Great
Yeah.
part of the community
Yep.
here. Awesome dude. He's been on the show here before. And I want all of you to go and give him some love right now. So I will see you all over there. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.